Look at me go, running around with blades. Isn't that fun? Woo, I'm having a great time. Yeah!
What are you doing?
Huh?
What are you doing? What are you doing? You're supposed to be making a high-quality review show about movies for the people. What are you doing? You're running around playing with knives.
Okay. Hey everyone, that's my new manager, Al Chadwick Moolah. He used to be a smuggler before he was on my show. I don't really sure what he smuggled. I heard baby smuggling, bamboo smuggling, panda smuggling. He said a lot of dirty jobs, but he never really wanted to say it, otherwise I'd be sleeping with the fishes. Don't know what that means.
You're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to review the movies. Folks, I didn't do any of that. I used to be a bad man, but now I'm just your old pal Moolah. I do reviews and I manage this scumbag right here. What are you doing with the knife?
This? What am I doing with a knife? What am I doing running around with a knife? I'm just running around with a blade. I guess you could call me a blade runner.
What do you mean you're supposed to be a blade runner? That's not a blade runner. That's a blade runner. Do the review. Do the review right now.
Welcome to Max's Movie Reviews, the show I'm going to review movies for you. Today, we're going to look at two very special movies to me. Our first is going to be the original Blade Runner. Blade Runner is one of my personal favorite movies of all time. It's based in the near future of 2019 in California, where we have robots who are like people and have emotions and thoughts and look exactly like humans, but they're robots. And then they went evil. So then we have cops called Blade Runners who hunt them down. The name makes no sense, but it sounds cool, and the movie's pretty pretty to look at. Harrison Ford, known for his many other great roles as Indiana Jones and Han Solo, plays Rick Deckard, a maybe human, maybe not, whose main job is to hunt down the 4 remaining replicants who are on Earth because they might do something bad. Who knows? You can't trust a robot in this day and age. Am I right? Hey, shut up, you robot. Rick Deckard is an old, sad drunk and used to be the best Blade Runner. He doesn't want to do it anymore, but with the new replicants in town, he has to put on the badge, which there actually isn't a badge, it's just a figure of speech of being a police officer, and has to run off and take care of it again, you know, with a little bit of the pew pew, pew pew. Blade Runner has a lot of interesting side characters for our hero, such as Gaff, the guy who doesn't really say much and is sort of his buddy cop who's really good at origami. He's really good. He makes a little unicorn. It's beautiful. Grade A. The other side character our main hero meets is a woman named Rachel, who's not a woman at all, but a walking pile of parts, who Deckard falls in love with. Blade Runner isn't about heroes, though, because it shows a grungy, noir, neon LA that pretty much inspired cyberpunk. The main bad guy is named Roy Batty. He's an android that looks exactly like Billy Idol, 100%. His whole goal is trying to find more life, because the replicants have a safeguard where they only live for 4 years. After that, they're done. No going back, lights out. Roy has his henchmen, or just kind of his friends and family, that's the closest a robot could ever have to hanging out with him, causing some havoc. One of them is a big guy who could pick up nuclear missiles. He's very fond of photos, which is another thing to show of are they more human than human. That is a big topic throughout Blade Runner, what makes human human, which is very fascinating. There's another one who likes to dance, which I guess shows humanity too. And then there's another one, Pris, who she was just there to distract one of the main characters into giving Roy what he wanted. But she was cool at gymnastics, I'll give her that. Like I said earlier, one thing that makes Blade Runner very good is the neon colors they use. It's such a beautiful aesthetic, just all these bright colors and dark colors all mashed together into like a robot haven with screens and lights and flashes and booms and colors everywhere. It's very, very pretty to look at. I know some people who were very bored of the movie for its crime story. I don't agree with that, but one thing all people can agree is that it's a very pretty movie to look at. Throughout the whole movie, Deckard's mission is to hunt down the 4 replicants and destroy them before they destroy humanity. He does a pretty good job at this for most of them. But while he's doing it, he also has to figure out his feelings for Rachel, the replicant who is incredibly human-like to him. One question, though, that gives you the whole movie: is Deckard a replicant, or is he a man, like me or you? Is he human? Is he flesh and blood? Or is he buckets of bolts and gears and grease? You decide. Throughout all the hidden messages, depending on what cut you watch, his glowing orange eyes, his love of photography, or the fact that he falls in love with a robot. Blade Runner does follow a lot of these tropes of what it means to be human, and one good example is when Roy goes to find his creator to ask for more life. Sort of symbolic of a man trying to find his interpretation of what created him so that he may live longer. Unfortunately for Roy, it doesn't work out that way. Nothing ever works out if you're a robot. That's just the sad, hard truth. C-3PO got his arm taken off. The Terminator got melted in lava. RoboCop lost his family. Bender has a drinking problem. It's just a sad world to be a robot. And deep down, that's what Blade Runner's about. Robots having a sad existence with pretty colors. I know I joke a lot about movies, but it is fantastic. It is one of my personal favorite movies. If you like crime movies, if you like movies that make you question what humanity means for yourself, meaning something, am I human, or what makes me human, or what makes me different from everybody else, watch Blade Runner, because it's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it. It is a masterpiece, even though there's like 7 cuts. But you know, they're all good in their own part. All of them. Every last one of them. Blade Runner came out in the 1980s, so it's not in theaters. But it is on DVD. Find the first Blade Runner, put that in the DVD player, smack it in, hit play, and have a great time. How was that, Al?
You did beautiful, kid. But you need to get back to the review, you scumbag garbage piece of trash.
Our second movie we're going to look at today is the somewhat long-awaited sequel to the first Blade Runner. I now present to you Blade Runner 2049. If you were to tell me they're going to make a sequel to Blade Runner, I probably wouldn't believe you. But now, we are in a timeline where that is a thing. And it's a very good thing. Because Blade Runner 2049 is so good. It's just as good as the original. Actually, both are just solid movies. You can watch one and you can watch the other and like both. They're both really good. 2049 still follows the same ideas of the first one, of robots being sad and questioning humanity. But this time, it gives you more to think about, because there's a pregnant robot.
Really?
Who knows who it could have been? Who knows? Robots can't get pregnant, they're not flesh. But 2049 doesn't think so. It says right to your face, yes, they can get pregnant. Yes, replicants can breed. This is the time we're in. People don't like that idea. So there's a bunch of opposing parties trying to hunt down this child of replicant and man, or replicant and replicant. Officer Rick Deckard is no longer a Blade Runner. He's run away from duty after the end of the first Blade Runner, the final cut. Instead, Ryan Gosling takes his place as Officer K, a replicant Blade Runner, a bit of an ironic twist, hated by both androids and man, but does his job pretty well. He spends the movie going on a quest trying to solve this mystery of who the child is of a replicant. Throughout his quest trying to solve the mystery of the robot child, Officer K does discover Officer Rick Deckard, who's now been living in Las Vegas alone with a canine companion, pretty much getting drunk and staying all alone. Deckard is still pretty much the same, but if anything, he's more like Harrison Ford is now. But he still was a very, very good part. I can't say much more without spoiling the movie, so I'm just gonna keep it there. But it's very satisfying. And you don't get to know if he's a human or a replicant. That's up to interpretation. Just like the first Blade Runner 2049 is very aesthetic as well. It still keeps that 80s cyberpunk vibe with all the screens everywhere and a lot of like computers and lights and flashing, like all that stuff I said earlier. But this time, it's still the same thing. But it kind of adds more since technology advances 30 years and you get to see a little bit more. For example, there's a giant pink computer lady, which was really cool to look at. There was, the streets had a bunch of vending machines where you could just pick random snacks. That was cool to look at. One of my personal favorites is when they're in Vegas, they go into an old showroom where like they would have nightly showings, and it was old holograms of Marilyn Monroe and Elvis, and the audio would keep cutting out to different Elvis songs. That was very, very aesthetic and very cool to look at. I was very appreciative of that. The aesthetic is still there. That's a very good plus. There is, however, one negative to Blade Runner 2049. And that, my friends, is the infamous Jared Leto. Personally, I don't understand how people can love this man. I've heard many negative personal accounts of him from people, and I've never really experienced him in movies. I saw him get punched in the face in Fight Club. That was cool. But then when I saw Suicide Squad and saw a monstrosity such as this, I could never forgive him. And in 2049, he is no different. He plays Wallace, who in the future owns a company that bought out Tyrell and saved humanity from pretty much the brink of extinction from pollution and killing all the animals and all that. He made farmers and all that, which is good. But he still plays the same Jared Leto character that I'm used to, where voice acting is bad, he looks dumb, he has a very punchable face, like in Fight Club. That's how it is. Like I said earlier, with the aesthetic of 2049, how it very much is similar to the original Blade Runner, there are other things. You see a different part that they didn't show you, where it's more industrial, with like junkyards and scrap yards and farmland in a very big cyberpunkish area. And the technology does advance, like I said, meaning holographic meatloaf, or Ryan Gosling's robot girlfriend. Blade Runner 2049 has been out in theaters now, and by the time this is out, hopefully it is still in theaters. It's not doing well in the box office, which breaks my heart, but it's still kind of funny because the first Blade Runner didn't even do well. It's a total cult film, and I can see this becoming a cult film as well. But if you have a chance, please go see Blade Runner 2049, especially if you saw the first one. And give this movie money. Let this movie breathe. Let this movie live. I want to see this movie survive in Hollywood. Blade Runner 2049 is a fantastic movie, and everyone should go see it. An angel is born today. Hey, I'll fight anyone who disagrees with me on Jared Leto.
Access Vision. Your voice, your community.